We'll start up at the top. And what we're trying to get our hands around is me giving my complete self to God. In other words, that I become a living sacrifice. That I give him all. But in that chapter, it says, I beseech you, therefore, brethren, by the mercies of God, that you present yourselves a living sacrifice, wholly acceptable to God, which is your reasonable service. Which is your reasonable service. It only seems reasonable that we, because we receive from God abundant mercy, that we give back to him that which he has so graciously been so kind toward us. You cannot accept the mercies of God and not present yourself as a living sacrifice. By the very fact that he was so kind, by the fact that he looked past, which we always say, the faults and saw the needs, by the fact that he gives the second chances, by the fact that he is so good to us, it is our reasonable service to present ourselves that living sacrifice. That's our reasonable service. Because of what he has done, that is what we do. And that's not easy because most often we end our conversation with God at the point of the mercies and don't think about, well, because he did this, now what do I do? And because his mercies, his truth, his mercies endureth forever, that means that our sacrifice to him is forever. It's not just sometime. It's not what we do just every now and then. How many of you have heard of the word sanctification? How would you define it? How would you define sanctification? Holy and pure. Okay. Holy and pure. Anybody else? Holy and pure. And certainly that is the core. That is the crux of it. Anybody else? Okay, set apart. All right. Anybody else? Okay, I want you to think of sanctification as certainly as set apart, as being that holy and pure, that holy and righteous. But I want you to think about sanctification in this sense also. A pair of eyeglasses is sanctified when it is used for the purpose that they were designed for. The sanctifying of that pair of eyeglasses is because the eyeglasses were being used for what it was intended for. A pen is sanctified when it is used to write. If it never is used to write what it was designed for, it cannot be sanctified. It cannot claim sanctification. So for us, what that means is whatever God has designed us, purposed us, we're only sanctified when we fulfill that design, that purpose. Now, when you are holy and righteous, it is because you have submitted yourself to the design, to the purpose for which God has intended for you. So go ahead.
Is it reasonable to say that sanctification will be satisfied by God?
Being satisfied by God? Okay, help me a little further. Being sanctified is to be satisfied. Oh, to being satisfied. Okay. Sanctification is being satisfying to God. Okay. Oh, and I'm having no problem with that, because the only way I'm going to be satisfying in the sight of God is I'm going to be what? Living his purpose. Isn't it interesting that Christ would say that the prostitutes, the gangsters, all those people would get into heaven before that church person? Wasn't that interesting? Why did he say that? He said that because what he wants us to concentrate on is not so much how holy we live, but our service that we render, our living that design, that purpose that God has for me. Because there are times when I am not so holy and right. Now, I said of Joe's answer, that's the core of it. But it has to go beyond that, because a lot of time we as Christians believe if we ain't smoking, drinking, and laying around, we are sanctified. But we're not doing anything in God's kingdom. Not doing anything. We come to church, we have a good time, we go home. And we do nothing more until it's time to go to church again. We might come to prayer meeting. But we do no more until it's time to come to church again. But we don't smoke, we don't drink, we don't lay around, so we are sanctified. But, and again, Joyce is set apart. Joe's living holy, righteous. Because sanctification is also a changing of the mind daily, a changing of the mind until, remember something, sanctification don't happen on this side of the grave. Sanctification is completed on the other side. But while we are here, we are constantly changing, getting better. Our thought process is better. Our living is better. Go ahead. Say that again. A new life. Okay. But again, the newness comes because I am continuously working on this thing. I don't know that we at the start can say, or have been able to say, I'm all that God would have me be. I am completely in his purpose for me. That's a growing process. You go through a whole lot before you can one day stand and say, I am living within that purpose, that design that God had for my life. My life. I've had some ups, I've had some downs, I've had some successes, I've had some mistakes, some failures. But God was faithful, and I kept trying, and I want to underline that. I kept trying, I kept working. I did not give in to my inabilities to be. I just kept working. I just kept trusting that one day I was going to get there. And like I say, this don't happen on this side of the grave. The completion happens on the other side. I got to keep working until my purpose has been, in the mind of God, complete. Go ahead.
But then my life is not my own.
Life is, Daddy said, when you became a Christian, when you gave your life to Christ, you need to understand it is no longer your life. It belongs to God. It belongs to God. But see, I go even further and say, when he created you, there was something he had in mind for you. And you have to submit totally to that. Totally to that. You have to live out that purpose. And like I said, that's not easy. It takes some time. And what do we do as parents? Or at least what we should be doing. We help our children understand that there is something God has in mind for you, and you have to start. So we start doing some of the fundamental things. Be honest. Be obedient. Those kinds of things. Work hard. Because all of those things helps us in our fulfillment of the purpose, the design, the intent that God had in mind when he created us. So again, because we are living that design, that purpose that God has for us, then we say we are sanctified. That purpose. He said, I beseech you therefore, brethren, by the mercies of God, that you present your bodies a living sacrifice, holy, acceptable to God, which is your reasonable service. The enemy to this is our conformity to the world. That's the enemy to this. The world is what makes us or tries to get us to stand in opposition to what God has purposed for us. And the world has some awful good arguments. Awful good arguments. See if you'll buy this. One of the greatest arguments I think the world has is you can be what you want to be. All you got to do is want to be it. Is that of God or is that of the world? Do we not tell our children that in order to encourage them, to inspire them, to grab hold to something? But I don't know if we teach enough. Work hard, study hard, pray hard, so that you will know the thing that God had in mind for you when he created you. Because this passage also, and you'll read it later on in the chapter, it has to do with, this thing is about what God has input in us that he can use to bless somebody else. God never inputs in us so that we are the one who receive the blessing. Would you all buy that? Help me now. I told Big Derry, I said, you're not 6'10" by accident. And you're not a good basketball player by accident. You're not at Syracuse by accident. You're not getting ready to go to the pros by accident. That was a design God had in mind for you. Because he's going to use what he has input in you so that you can bless somebody else. And I always commend him. Every time I talk to him, we text or whatever, I say to him, you are living your purpose. You're always in the prisons with young men. You're fighting for the rights of others, especially young men. God gave you all of that. But a lot of times when God gives us all that, what do we do? Here come the Lamborghinis, and here come the designer clothes, and here come the 20-room houses. And, that's where we go with all that. We don't see all of that as God inputting in us a powerful something. Because what was going to happen? Those young men, when they see Big Eton Thomas walk into the room, that ain't no joke. This man received a contract that was $36 million. That ain't no joke. But it wasn't so much about the $36 million. That was just God saying thanks. But what it was about was when he walked into that prison and that kid said, that's Eton Thomas. He played for Syracuse. He played for Dallas. Or he played for the Thunders. He was an awesome basketball player, not in scoring, but nothing came in that middle that Big Derrick didn't touch. And if you came in the middle, you had to pay a price because that's what he was good at. But he understood that was about being able to do something that God had in mind, that when he gave me 6 feet 10 inches, the ability to do a sport, basketball, he could use to bless somebody else. But how often do we take what he has input in us, what he has blessed us with, to simply say, this is for me. This is for me. I can read, and I read in an excellent way. I can do math, and I do math in an excellent way. But there are some kids who can't read. There are some kids who struggle, and there are some adults who struggle with math. Maybe that which God gave you is for you to take now and use to bless somebody else. Everything, that's my argument, everything he gives us. And I even go as far to say, you know what? Now, I can't be no fool. I can't be out there acting crazy and telling my Lord, you take care of my health. I can't be no fool like that now. But when the enemy brings health issues, I don't even have to worry about them, because as long as God has in mind my purpose, he's going to protect that purpose. He knows I'm going to need health to do that. I'm going to need strength to do that. I can't. Anthony Walker just shakes his head when he talks to me, because he says, you are covered. Every time I come around you and there is a need, it ain't but a short distance before that need is met. He said, I don't understand that. He said, you just covered. I said, well, let me tell you, Anthony, this is how I understand it. God cannot expect me to give my all down here if I'm struggling over there. You know, there's a young minister I'm trying to work with right now who's talking about his family, his family, his family, his family, his children, his wife, his this, his that. And I said, you know what? That ain't none of your business. Your business is what God has purposed you to do in this work of preaching. And when you do that work, then he takes care of children and wife and home and all that other stuff. We over here messing with something that's not even our business to be messing with. Not when you have been called to your purpose. You don't have to worry about over here when you're doing what you're supposed to be doing here. Because it's his job to take care of you. Because that purpose is certainly beyond your strength. He has to empower you for that. Opposition to that purpose is certainly beyond your strength. We fight not against flesh and blood. He has to take care of that. All the needs, he shall provide your needs. All your needs, actually, we don't even have the capacity to handle our needs. There's a lot of people who have six-figure jobs who are not meeting needs. And now that sounds like crazy to me. Dad said, boy, if I made the money that you and Trilly made, I'd be on top of the world. I'm saying, man. But the little money I was making was big money to him because he had never made that kind of money. But even with that, if he was not blessing, Overball used to say, take it and shake it, multiply it. If he did not take even a six-figure salary and bless it, that six-figure salary would not bring about the peace that you need, because it would be so misused that there would be no realization. There's a whole lot of miserable people who ain't worried about no money. And there are some people who ain't got no money, ain't worried about no issues. You know, because they trust God to take care of them. Something always happens. I didn't say when you're right. I didn't say when you're perfect. I didn't say when you're not committing any sin. I said when you are working in that purpose and trying to do your best, God takes care of you. He takes care of you. And that second verse, that's that enemy to all of this. Do not conform to this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind, that you may prove what is that good and acceptable and perfect will of God. The devil would, enemy would, that we concentrate more on the things of earth, this world, than we would the things of the Spirit. If I can just stay focused on my purpose, even when enemies come, and God has a way of assuring you that he's with you. Anybody ever had a dream, and in the dream you had enemies after you, but they never could catch you? And even when they caught you and was ready to kill you, something happened and you escaped. Anybody ever had those kinds of dreams? You know what they mean? They mean you're getting ready to go through something. There's an enemy who's after you. But don't worry. Though he chase you to the point where you're almost giving out, don't worry, he won't catch you. Though his knife is positioned to stab you in your heart, don't worry. It will not connect. Because I have this. All I'm doing is telling you, get ready, pray a little harder, be a little bit more observant, keep your ears open, keep your eyes open, because it's there, but you ain't got to worry about it. Now, when they start killing you and catching you, and you need to start worrying. Because God has not his protection, his hedge around you. Something you're doing God ain't pleased with. But when he said, don't worry about it, I got that. They ain't going to hurt you. Don't worry about it. Just go on with your work. But this world is the enemy to our living out the design, the purpose that God has for us. Where am I? I'm going to have to skip down to verse 5, so that I can be out for your meeting. I'm sorry? Did someone say something? Verse 5. So we, being many, are one body in Christ, and individually members of one another, having then gifts, and that's the part that I want to kind of labor on for a moment, having then gifts differing according to the grace that is given to us. Having different gifts according to the grace that is given to us. Let us use them. Whatever God has put in you, that's what you want to use. Don't be running around here trying to be like somebody else. Just what God has put in me. What would I look like getting up there trying to sing like Reggie? Because I want to be like Reggie. I want to get the praise or whatever, the things from the people that Reggie get. I know I can't do that. But God has put a talent in me. He has put a gift in me. He has put grace in me. And that is what I should focus on. That's what I should focus on. It does not matter that you don't get the applause of someone else. Matter of fact, the only thing that we're careful for is at the end of all of this, we hear God say, well done. Because I warn young preachers, when you preach and everybody say you did a good job, go home worried and ask God, did you do what he put you up there to do? Because if you preach, somebody is going to be mad at what you said. Somebody is going to be upset about what you said. If your preaching, if your sermon makes everybody happy and content, then you have not preached the gospel. That's my problem with health and prosperity. You know, people don't want to hear you if you're talking about don't sin, if you're talking about get up off of yourself and do, if you're talking about pay your tithe, people don't want to hear you. What they want to hear is, in spite of what I ain't doing, God will still bless me. Well, that's not God. That's not truth. Mercy can keep you until grace saves you. But at some point, we have to get up and avail ourselves to what God, and I was so happy for that song that the choir sung on this past Sunday, I'm available. You gave me my hands to reach out to man. You gave me my voice so that I can speak your word. You gave me praise that some people never hear. And then in that song it says, now I'm giving back to you all that you put in me. Not that I don't want to use it anymore, but I want to give it back to you so that you can bless it, that when it comes back to me, I will be successful in what I do when I get out there. Some of you who know that verse, holler to me right quick. I'm giving back to you all that you gave me. Use them as you please. Yes, thank you. That's a powerful song. That's a powerful testimony. That's a powerful beginning in this thing of meeting our purpose. Every last one of us got something that God has put in us that he wants to use to bless somebody. Now, if you don't give it back to him, if he don't fill the cup up, when you get out there, you'll be doing it on you and you'll mess it up. That's why so many times we call ourselves going out to evangelize and we come back empty-handed. Sometimes why we can't stand before auxiliaries and lead because we have not let God fill the cup up. So he says, if prophecy, let us prophesy in the proportion of our faith. Let us prophesy in the proportion to, it's not of, it's proportion to our faith. Somebody help me there. Somebody got to help me there. You got to tell me what that means. Say that again. Oh, okay. Whatever you are able to do, whatever he has input in you to do, use that. Use that. Prophesy in proportion to our faith. For ministry, let us use it in our ministering. He who teaches in teaches. He who exhorts in exhortation. He who gives with liberality. He who leads with diligence. He who shows mercy with cheerfulness. We all have different. God has input in us different things. And whatever he has input in me, Let me use it. In our deal with where is your place in ministry? And we were asking a question one evening about who are you and what is your ministry? And I was surprised to hear Sunday school teachers not saying teaching. I was surprised to hear preachers not saying preaching. Because if I'm before that Sunday school class as God's purpose, his intent for my being there, that's my work. That's what I give my all to. That's what I prepare, not just Saturday night to get ready for Sunday school on Sunday morning, but I prepare the week long, making sure that I understand what God would have me say to that class come Sunday morning. And I know that I might be in trouble, but I ain't going to talk about me going out in outreach as my ministry when I'm standing before Sunday school. I can go out and assist in outreach, but that ain't where my heart, that ain't where my love is, that ain't where my work is. My work is when I stand in that pulpit. My work is when I stand before that Sunday school class. My work is when I stand in that choir loft. That's my work. That's what I give my heart to, my soul to. That's what I pray to God to continuously empower me with, that which he has and put in me. You buy that?
Because when I can feed 3,000 people in a year, that's my ministry.
Yes. Okay. Ministry, let us use it in our ministry. If he has put input in you, ministry. When you minister, let us use it in our ministry. He who teaches in teaching, the grace that he has put in you, that which he has empowered you to do. Use that. That's your strength. That's your power. That's your purpose. And sometimes what my purpose is not as popular as some other areas, but it's what I'm good at. And that's all that matters, because my good at it comes because the grace of God has input it in me and has empowered that which he has put in me. That's what I'm good at. Not because I went and studied somewhere. It was interesting, that Ebony article that showed some of the charismatic preachers who were going to this psychologist. And this psychologist was teaching them how to get into the emotions of people. Because the big thing back then was, if you can stir up the emotion of people, then they will respond to your preaching. So the whole intent of preaching was to make somebody emotionally out of control. But nothing was going in their head. Nothing was establishing a foundation within them. They had their high. But when they came off of their high back down, they couldn't even tell you what the sermon was about. Nothing helped them out of that. And there were many of us who were grabbing hold to that. It didn't matter. We had to go and grab C.L. Franklin's sermon. and call ourselves preaching it. Some of us were so bold, we didn't care that somebody else had the same album at their house. We didn't care. We go preach it anyhow because it was something, it was a way that we could reach out and grab the emotions of people. Caesar Clark, it didn't matter. Let's grab something. And I probably should sit down, but sometimes we grab somebody's song that's not a testimony to us. And I'm sure you can tell the difference when a song is within the experiences of someone and when it is just there because it's a great song that sounds good and people like to hear it. Can you tell the difference? Maybe I'm the only crazy one around here. Can you tell the difference? When that person put his or herself into that song that's within his experience, and I know I got beat down when I said a 5-year-old don't need to be talking about through many dangers, toils, and snares I have already come, was grace that brought me saved thus far. What do you know about that? His God is his daddy, his mama. His grace is his daddy and his mama. But when he sings, I am a promise. I am a possibility. That's his experience. That's his testimony. But we grab hold of things just because they are popular and sound good. But let me end with this. What is your living sacrifice? Are you a living sacrifice? Are you a living sacrifice? Unto God, are you a living sacrifice? Have you given your all to God? Have you truly said, here am I, use me? Have you truly said, wherever you take me, I'm willing to go? Have you truly said, whatever I go through, only thing I ask is you go with me? Have you truly done that? Are you truly a living sacrifice unto God? Have you given him your all? Are you totally within what he has purposed you? Are you committed to that? 100%. Now, if you know it, I didn't say, are you without sin? I didn't say, are you right? I didn't say, you don't drink no more, you don't smoke no more. I didn't say none of that. I said, are you totally committed to what God has purposed for you? I don't care what it is. If that's what he brought you into existence to do, are you totally committed to that? So that when somebody makes you mad, you don't leave the choir and go home and sit down for 3 months. Or you leave the auxiliary talking about, well, they don't need me, they don't appreciate what I do. No way. When you're committed to your work, when you've given everything of you to God, nobody can run you away from anything. I'll just put it in a nice way, it's heart-rending. When you say, I haven't seen you in a couple of 2 or 3 Sundays. You ain't going to see me either. Y'all just pray for me because I was sick and nobody came to visit me. Nobody called. And you don't understand that the reason you got up is because every day God visited you while you were sick. He touched the medicine that you was taking. He controlled the hands of the doctors and nurses that was ministering to you. You had the best visitor. But because the pastor, nor the deacon, nor the president came by, you ain't going to see me no more. Well, where is your commitment? Where is your purpose? Where is your work? Are you? And then they say, I'll go to some church that will appreciate. That's heart-rending. that you let somebody run you away or some process run you away from. But that's the question. Are you a living sacrifice? Are you willing to do what God has purposed you to do in spite of the opposition to that, even within your own self? Okay, I'm finished so that we can. I really want to have a leaders meeting this Sunday so that we can talk before we have the annual business meeting, which is a few Sundays away. I don't know if you would like to do that right after church or come back a little after dinner and do it. Which would be best for you? Right after church? And it won't take long because there are just a few things that I want to talk about so that when we have the annual business meeting, we can address in a good way. On the 27th of February, Southern Hills Baptist wants to join with us in a chili cook-off. Is that the right language? Something, it's chili something. Where you can bring your best recipe and we all eat chili and fellowship on that evening. The two staffs are going to be getting together, I think it's next week, to plan that out. We will be marching with them in the Martin Luther King parade. And remember, you can use the sweatshirt you had last year, or you can buy a new one with the new logo. And if so, there should be something on the bulletin board where you can go online and do that. Okay, I can't think of any announcements or anything. 27th. February 27th. Okay, so we can be dismissed for our groups.